Blood pooled beneath Commander Cora's armor, her violet skin taking on a sickly pale hue as she stared up at the humans standing over her. Battlefield smoke clouded the amber sky of Nexus 9, but nothing obscured the soft expression on the human's face, a look so foreign that she had no name for it in her native tongue. "Finish it," she snarled, baring teeth that could tear through metal. Her hand reached for the ceremonial blade at her hip, but the movement sent ripples of agony through her wounded torso. "I am Cora, battle matron of the 4th Vexian Fleet. Kill me with honor, human." The human, a male with copper-streaked hair and eyes the color of Nexus 9's twin moons, knelt beside her. He wore no battle armor, just the simple gray uniform of what her intelligence had identified as a medical unit. Yet somehow, this unarmed healer had disabled her mech suit and brought down the most feared commander in the Vexian armada. "My name is Elias," he said, his voice lacking the tremor of fear she'd come to expect from his kind. "And I'm not going to kill you." Instead, he reached toward her with an instrument she didn't recognize. Cora tensed, anticipating torture, but felt only a cooling sensation as the device sealed the gaping wound in her side. "What dishonor is this?" she demanded, confusion making her voice ragged. "You deny me a warrior's death." Elias continued working, his fingers gentle against her wounded flesh. "Where I come from, saving a life isn't dishonor, it's the highest calling." For 3 cycles of Nexus 9's red dwarf sun, the human kept her alive in a small outpost separated from the main colony. She learned that he had been mapping the planet's indigenous flora when her battalion had descended on the human settlement. While her warriors had burned and slaughtered, this man had been categorizing healing plants. On the 4th day, her communication implant crackled to life. "Commander Cora," came the cold voice of Admiral Vesca, "you have failed the Dominion. Your rank is stripped. Return for reconditioning or suffer exile." Reconditioning, the Vexian ritual of partial mind erasure. Death would be preferable. "I cannot return," she replied, feeling the weight of her words collapse her future. "Then you are nothing," came the reply before permanent silence. That night, fever seized her body. Between hallucinations, she felt Elias' cool hands on her burning skin, heard him whispering words in his language that her translator couldn't process but whose tone conveyed something she'd never experienced: tenderness. When clarity returned, she found him sleeping in a chair beside her, his face troubled even in rest. She studied him with new eyes, not as prey or enemy, but as something unprecedented. In her culture, the strong dominated the weak. The victorious claimed the defeated, yet this human who had bested her demanded nothing. It defied all she knew of the universe. When he woke, she had made her decision. Tradition dictated only one path for a defeated warrior whose life had been claimed by another. With effort that sent pain lancing through her healing wounds, Cora slid from the medical bed and dropped to her knees before him. "Human Elias," she said, her voice rough with emotion she'd been trained since birth to suppress. "You have conquered me not through force but through this mercy I cannot comprehend." She pressed a fist to her chest in the formal gesture of her people. "My life is yours, my strength is yours. By Vexian law I offer myself as your mate." Elias' eyes widened, his mouth opening slightly in shock. "Cora, that's not—" "Please," she interrupted, the word unfamiliar on her tongue. In 20 years of military command, she had never said it. "Take me as yours. I have nowhere to return. My people have abandoned me, and I—" Her voice faltered as she struggled with concepts her language barely contained. "I wish to understand why you spared me, why you heal instead of harm. I wish to understand." "You." The silence between them seemed to span galaxies as Elias looked at her, not with the triumph of a conqueror, but with compassion that made her proud warrior's heart tremble. "Stand up, Cora," he finally said, extending his hand. "If you're going to learn about humans, the first lesson is this: we don't kneel to each other." "Relationships on Earth aren't about conquest," Elias explained, handing Cora a steaming cup of tea made from local Nexus 9 herbs. The small outpost cabin felt even smaller with her towering presence. "They're about partnership, mutual respect." Cora sniffed the liquid suspiciously before taking a cautious sip. "Mutual respect," she repeated, as if tasting the words. "In the Vexian Dominion, respect is earned through dominance." "And in your system, what does the mate of a victor do?" Elias asked, careful to keep his tone neutral. Cora's secondary eyelids flickered, what Elias had come to recognize as her version of contemplation. They serve, fight, protect their mate's interests. They bear offspring if biologically compatible. She paused, violet fingers tightening around the cup. But also they belong, they have place. The raw vulnerability in those last words struck him. Behind her fierce exterior and militaristic upbringing lay someone who, having lost her position in Vexian society, was adrift. You don't need to belong to someone to have a place, Cora. She stood abruptly, her impressive height making the ceiling seem lower. You do not want me. That's not what I said, Elias replied, rising to meet her gaze. I'm saying I want you to want yourself first, to choose who you are without your military rank. Something dangerous flashed in her amber eyes. You defeated me. Now you reject me. Is this another form of human cruelty? No, he said softly. It's another form of human respect. The tension between them crackled like the electrical storms that swept Nexus 9's northern continent. Elias held her gaze, refusing to back down despite the way his heart hammered against his ribs. Not from fear, though any sane person would fear a Vexian warrior, but from something more complex that had been growing since he'd found her on the battlefield. Slowly, Cora's posture changed. The rigid military bearing softened, almost imperceptibly. Teach me then, she said. Teach me this human way. Over the next week, as her wounds healed completely, Vexians recovered at rates that astounded Elias' medical mind. They developed a rhythm. Mornings, he taught her about Earth's cultures and histories. Afternoons, she helped him catalog native plants, her enhanced senses detecting properties he would have missed. Evenings, they exchanged stories under Nexus 9's triple moons. One night, as they sat outside watching aurora-like lights dance across the sky, Cora's hand brushed against his. The touch sent an electric current up his arm. Your skin, she murmured. It's warmer than ours. Vexians run cool, he replied, his voice unexpectedly husky. Your biology evolved for efficiency. Her fingers tentatively explored his palm, tracing each line with scientific curiosity that slowly transformed into something else. And humans evolved for connection, perhaps, he answered, daring to interlace his fingers with hers. We're social creatures. The intimacy of the gesture seemed to startle her, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned closer, her breath cool against his cheek. Is this how human mates begin? She whispered. The question hung between them, weighted with possibility. Elias turned to face her, their faces only inches apart. It could be, he admitted, but only if both people choose it freely. Cora's expression softened into something he'd never seen before, vulnerability mixed with determination. I choose, she said simply. Their lips met tentatively at first, an experiment in xenobiology that quickly transcended science. Her mouth was cooler than a human's, but just as soft, and when she pulled him closer with unexpected gentleness, Elias surrendered to the reality he'd been fighting. He was falling for someone from a species that had come to conquer his own. The moment was shattered by the sharp whine of approaching hover vehicles. They broke apart as searchlights swept the landscape. Elias recognized the insignia of the human colonial defense force. His own people had found them. They cannot see me here, Cora hissed, reaching instinctively for a weapon that wasn't there. Elias grabbed her hand. I won't let them hurt you. It is not me I fear for, she replied, eyes fixed on him with an intensity that stole his breath. Vexians kill traitors, humans must do the same. Before he could respond, the cabin door burst open. Colonial officers in full tactical gear stormed in, weapons raised. Dr. Elias Fletcher, barked the lead officer, a stern-faced woman with captain's stripes. You're harboring an enemy combatant. Step away from the alien. Elias didn't move. She's under my protection, Captain. Medical neutrality protocols. Were voided when the Vexians bombed our eastern settlement, the captain snapped. 28 dead, including your colleague Dr. Patel. The news hit Elias like physical blow. Arjun had been his friend since medical school. Cora's posture changed beside him. He felt rather than saw her shift into battle readiness. Don't, he murmured to her, then addressed the captain again. This is Commander Cora. She's defected. She can help us understand Vexian tactics, maybe prevent further bloodshed. The captain's expression remained cold. She's coming with us for interrogation. You're coming too, for a different kind of questioning. As they were led out into the night, surrounded by armed guards, Cora's cool fingers found his one last time. I will not let them harm you, she whispered in his language, her accent making the promise sound like poetry. This I choose freely. New Haven Colony sprawled across the valley floor, a patchwork of prefabricated structures and indigenous materials that spoke of humanity's adaptability. Through the transport vehicle's window, Cora observed with the keen eye of someone who had once planned to destroy it. She and Elias had been separated upon arrival, him taken to what they called debriefing, her to a reinforced cell beneath the colony's security headquarters. The humans had been thorough in their search, removing the subdermal translator behind her ear, leaving her in silence. They'd underestimated Vexian hearing, however. She could still discern their conversations through the walls. Fletcher's lost his mind, a gruff voice said. Stockholm Syndrome or worse. He's the best xenobiologist we have, replied another. If he says she's defected, there might be something to it. Or maybe he's just thinking with his. The conversation cut off as the cell door opened, revealing a stern-faced woman with silver-streaked hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. I am Director Olivia Taekta, she said, setting down a small device that began to translate her words into the harsh consonants of Cora's native language. Commander Cora, is it? Former Commander, Cora corrected, keeping her posture deliberately non-threatening despite the instinct to assert dominance. The Dominion has excommunicated me. Director Taekta's expression remained impassive. Convenient timing. For whom? Cora challenged. I have lost everything I once valued, position, purpose, people. Not everything, Taekta replied, sliding a tablet across the table. On the screen was Elias, sitting alone in a sparse room. Dr. Fletcher's career is over because of you, his reputation destroyed. He may face charges of treason. Something protective and fierce flared in Cora's chest. He saved my life when your protocols dictated he should take it. If that is treason to humans, then your species is as barbaric as mine. A flicker of surprise crossed Taekta's face. You care about him. He showed me another way to exist, Cora admitted, one not built on conquest. Taekta studied her for a long moment. The Vexian battalion that attacked our eastern settlement, your battalion, used modified plasma cannons. Our shields couldn't detect them until it was too late. Cora nodded slowly. Phase-shifted harmonics, my design. Your design killed 28 of our people. And I have killed thousands more across 3-star systems, Cora replied, her voice hollow. I cannot undo what I was bred and trained to be, but I can choose what I become. Their conversation was interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the facility. Taekta pressed her comm device. Status report. Security breach in Sector 7, came the panicked reply. Multiple colonists armed and moving toward detention. Lockdown Protocol Alpha, Taekta ordered, then turned to Cora. Stay here. They're coming for me, Cora realized aloud. Your people want vengeance. Our security will handle it, Taekta assured her, but the concern in her eyes betrayed her. Not if they're as determined as I would be, Cora replied. Let me help. Taekta's laugh was without humor. By doing what exactly? By surrendering properly, Cora said, rising to her full height. Let me speak to them. 20 minutes later, Cora stood in the colony's central square, surrounded by a crowd of angry faces. Director Taekta had agreed to her plan, albeit with snipers positioned on nearby rooftops. Near the front of the crowd, she spotted Elias being restrained by 2 security officers, his face contorted with worry. I am Commander Cora of the 4th Vexian Fleet, she announced, her translator projecting her words across the square. I designed the weapons that killed your people. I ordered the attacks on your outposts. I am responsible. The crowd's angry murmuring grew louder. In Vexian culture, defeat means death or complete submission, she continued. Your Dr. Fletcher defeated me not through superior firepower, but through an incomprehensible act of mercy. He showed me that strength lies not in destruction, but in healing. She slowly sank to her knees, assuming the position of complete surrender that was sacred in her culture. I offer myself to your justice, she said. But know this, I am no longer Vexian in anything but biology. I have chosen a different path, one that I hope might someday help end this conflict between our kinds. A man pushed to the front of the crowd, grief and rage twisting his features. My wife died in that attack, he shouted. She was a botanist. What justice could possibly balance that? Before security could intervene, Elias broke free and placed himself between Cora and the advancing man. Anthony, I knew Maria. She was brilliant and kind, and she believed in understanding, not vengeance, Elias said, his voice carrying across the now silent square. What would she want this moment to become? Anthony faltered, tears streaming down his face. If you want to hurt someone, hurt me, Elias continued. I made the choice to save Commander Cora, but before you do, ask yourself, if we become what we're fighting against, what's left to save? Cora watched this exchange with dawning understanding. This was courage unlike any she had witnessed in battle. Not the courage to kill or die, but the courage to stand vulnerable before hatred and appeal to something higher. Slowly, Anthony lowered the weapon he'd been clutching. Maria would have wanted to understand them, he admitted brokenly. She always said knowledge was the only path to peace. As security led the crowd away, Cora remained kneeling, overcome by the complexity of human emotion. Elias approached, offering his hand just as he had in the outpost. Stand up, Cora, he said softly. Remember, we don't kneel to each other. She took his hand, allowing him to pull her to her feet. His touch anchored her in this new, confusing reality where enemies could become something else entirely. I believe, Director Takeda said, approaching them, that we have much to discuss about the future of our two species. As they followed Takeda toward the colony's administrative building, Elias' hand remained clasped in hers. Warm, steady, a bridge between worlds that had never before connected. Moonlight filtered through the small window of Cora's new quarters, no longer a cell, but not quite freedom either. After 3 weeks of interrogations, strategy sessions, and gradual integration into the colony, Director Takeda had granted her supervised resident status. The tracking bracelet on her wrist pulsed with a soft blue light, a constant reminder of conditional trust. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. It's open, she called, knowing already who it would be. Only one person visited her after curfew. Elias entered, his face drawn with exhaustion but brightening at the sight of her. Since their public confrontation in the square, his status among the colonists had been nearly as complicated as hers, no longer facing charges of treason, but viewed with suspicion by many. You look tired, she observed, moving to him with the fluid grace that all Vexians possessed. Long day in the med lab, he explained. We're making progress with those medicinal fungi you identified, could revolutionize our trauma treatments. She reached up, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead with a gentleness that still surprised her. Physical contact between them had evolved from clinical to cautious to something increasingly intimate. Each touch was a discovery, an exploration of differences and unexpected similarities. You didn't come here to discuss medicine, she said softly. His smile faded. No, intelligence picked up something on long-range scanners. A Vexian destroyer dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Cold dread settled in her stomach. Admiral Veska doesn't send destroyers for reconnaissance. That's what I told Takeda. She's called an emergency council meeting at 600. He took her hands in his. They'll want you there. Cora nodded, trying to process the implications. The destroyer will carry at least one battle unit, 50 elite warriors. If Veska ordered them here, she plans to make an example of this colony. She hesitated. And of me. Elias stepped closer, his body radiating human warmth that she had come to crave. We've strengthened our defenses based on your intelligence. We have a chance. You don't understand, she whispered. Vexian military doctrine is absolute. Failed commanders must be eliminated along with any who sheltered them. This isn't about your colony anymore, it's about me. His hands moved to frame her face, surprisingly strong for a healer. Then we face it together. The tenderness in his eyes unraveled something deep within her, the last threads of her old self, perhaps. She closed the distance between them, capturing his mouth with hers. Unlike their first tentative kiss weeks ago, this one carried urgency, need, the awareness of time potentially running out. He responded with equal fervor, hands sliding down to her waist, pulling her against him. Vexian body temperature ran cooler than human, making his touch feel like fire against her skin, a delicious burn that awakened nerve endings she hadn't known she possessed. If this is our last night, she murmured against his lips, I want to know all of you. His breath caught. Cora. I've studied human anatomy extensively, she said with a hint of her old commanding tone. Theoretical knowledge requires practical application, does it not, Doctor? A smile tugged at his lips. That sounds suspiciously like the scientific method. I'm an excellent student, she replied, guiding him toward the sleep platform. What followed was an education for them both, a discovery of where their physiologies aligned and differed, of unexpected sensitivities and shared pleasures. His fingers traced the bioluminescent patterns that appeared on her skin as her arousal grew, patterns no human had ever witnessed. She marveled at the heat of him, the softness underlying his strength, so unlike the utilitarian mating practices of her species. When they finally joined, the sensation transcended physical pleasure. Something deeper connected, not just bodies but experiences, worldviews, the very essence of what made them who they were. In that moment, Cora understood what humans meant by making love, creation rather than conquest. Afterward, as they lay entangled in each other's arms, the reality of their situation returned with crushing weight. I can't fight my own people, she whispered into the darkness. Elia's fingers traced patterns along her spine. No one's asking you to. Then what? Hide while they slaughter the colony? The very thought made her physically ill, another new sensation. I was bred for battle, Elias. It's encoded in my DNA. Maybe, he said thoughtfully, but you've already proven that you're more than your programming. Before she could respond, her enhanced hearing picked up the distant sound of alarms. Seconds later, Elia's communication device buzzed. Fletcher, he answered, sitting up abruptly. What, when? Cora didn't need to hear the other side of the conversation. She already knew. They're here, aren't they? She asked when he disconnected. His expression confirmed it. Dropping from orbit, ETA 20 minutes. She rose, reaching for her clothing with military efficiency. Then I've made my decision. Cora. The Vexian Force commander is Thara, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. My sister, not by blood but by battle bond, more ruthless than I ever was. Understanding dawned in his eyes. That's why Admiral Veska sent her. Yes, Cora finished dressing and turned to face him fully. There's something you need to know. Vexians have a telepathic connection to their battle-bonded siblings. I've been blocking Thara since my defeat, but if I open that channel, she'll know everything you know, Elias finished, horror crossing his features. Our defenses, our weaknesses. And my feelings for you, Cora added softly. Emotions are contagious through the bond. It's why Vexians train to suppress them. Elias moved to her, gripping her shoulders. It's too dangerous. It's our only chance, she countered. If I can make Thara feel what I've experienced here, the compassion, the connection, it might create enough doubt to give us an opening. And if it doesn't? Cora's expression hardened into the battle mask she had worn for decades. Then I do what I was born to do. I fight, not for the Dominion, but for this new home I've found. Her hand moved to rest over his heart. For you. The alarms grew louder as colony defenses activated. In the distance, the first flashes of atmospheric entry lit up the pre-dawn sky. We need to go, Elias said, though he made no move to release her. Cora pulled him close one last time, memorizing the sensation of his arms around her, his scent, the rhythm of his heartbeat. Whatever happens, she whispered, know that you conquered what no weapon could, a Vexian heart. Dawn broke over the horizon of Nexus 9, bathing the human settlement in amber light. Cora stood at the edge of the defense perimeter, her tall figure silhouetted against the rising sun. The ceremonial armor Elias had helped her repair gleamed with symbols of both Vexian strength and human resilience, a physical manifestation of the bridge she had become. Behind her, colonists prepared the non-lethal countermeasures she and Elias had designed through sleepless nights of planning. Electromagnetic pulse generators that would disable Vexian battle suits without harming the warriors inside. Sonic disruptors calibrated to the specific frequency that disoriented Vexian inner-ear structures without causing permanent damage. Even now, Elias was working with the colony's engineers, his hands moving deftly as he recalibrated the final emitter. They're coming, Cora said, her enhanced vision detecting the dust clouds on the horizon. Taskmaster Zeva leads them, my sister. Elias moved to stand beside her, his fingers finding hers in a brief, tender gesture that still sent electricity through her body. After months among humans, touch no longer felt foreign, but his touch, it remained sacred. Are you certain about this? He asked. You could stay within the settlement, no one would blame you. Cora turned to him, memorizing the lines of concern etched into his face. My entire life, I was taught that surrender meant weakness, she said, lifting her hand to trace the curve of his jaw. Until I surrendered to you and found my greatest strength. Today I will show my people that there is honor in choosing peace. The approaching battalion crested the hill, 20 elite warriors in mechanized battle suits that towered 3 meters high, weapons primed. At their center was a command unit, sleeker, faster, deadlier, piloted by Zeva, who had claimed Cora's position after her exile. Commander Cora, Zeva's amplified voice carried across the battlefield. The traitor shows herself. Cora stepped forward beyond the protection of the settlement's shields. I am no longer commander, she replied, and I am no traitor to the true spirit of our people. You mate with a human, Zeva spat the word like poison. You betray your bloodline. I love a human, Cora corrected, the word still new but precious on her tongue. And in doing so, I've discovered what our civilization has forgotten. Strength isn't measured by how many worlds we conquer or lives we take. It's measured by what we create, what we nurture. Zeva's battlesuit advanced, weapon ports glowing with charged energy. Pretty words from a fallen warrior. The Dominion wants this colony eliminated and all humans captured for study. Stand aside, sister, and I may spare you. You know I cannot. Then die with them. The first shots came from Zeva's unit, energy pulses that Cora deflected with the reflective shield Elias had designed, a fusion of Vexian metals and human engineering. She didn't attack, simply held her ground as her former warriors advanced. Now, Elias, she called. The perimeter erupted in a synchronized wave of energy that rippled across the battlefield. Battlesuits froze mid-stride, their systems temporarily overloaded. Only Zeva's command unit remained partially functional, its advanced shielding absorbing much of the pulse. Cora used the moment to close the distance between them, moving with the fluid grace that had once made her the most feared warrior in 3-star systems. She leapt onto her sister's mech, finding the manual override exactly where she knew it would be. The cockpit hissed open, revealing Zeva's face, so similar to her own, yet twisted with rage and confusion. Kill me then, Zeva challenged, reaching for her sidearm. Cora caught her wrist, but instead of breaking it as she would have once done, she pulled her sister into an embrace. No, Zeva, I'm not here to kill you. I'm here to show you another way. There is no other way, Zeva hissed, struggling against her. Look around you, Cora insisted, turning her sister's face toward the settlement where humans were already moving to assist the disabled Vexian warriors, helping them from their suits, offering water, treating minor injuries. They could have destroyed us. Instead, they offer help even to those who came to slaughter them. Zeva's struggles slowed as she watched a human medic, Elias, tending to a Vexian warrior whose arm had been crushed when her suit collapsed. This is weakness, she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. No, sister, this is evolution, Cora replied. Our civilization conquered worlds because we believed it was the only way to survive. But these humans, they thrive through cooperation. They grow stronger by lifting others. Slowly, the tension in Zeva's body released. The Dominion will send others. Then we will show them the same truth, one heart at a time. As the setting sun painted the sky in crimson and gold, Cora found Elias in their quarters, his body exhausted from hours of treating both human and Vexian injuries. She knelt beside him as he sat on their bed, taking his hands in hers. You once told me humans don't kneel to each other, she said softly. We don't, he agreed, his eyes questioning. This isn't submission, she explained, pressing her lips to his palm. This is devotion. My people have a ritual. When we choose a life mate, we kneel and offer our heartstone. From within her armor, she produced a small crystal that pulsed with bioluminescence in time with her heartbeat. It is the essence of our life force. By tradition, it remains dormant until it touches the skin of our true mate. She placed it in his hand, and the crystal flared with brilliant light, casting prism rainbows across the walls of their simple dwelling. Elias' breath caught. Cora, are you certain, after everything your people did today? What they did only confirms what I already knew, she interrupted, rising to join him on the bed. My place is with you, not as your captive or your conquest, but as your equal, your partner, your lover. His arms encircled her, pulling her against him with a hunger that matched her own. I love you, he whispered, the words no longer strange to her ears. across stars and species and everything that should make us enemies. Then surrender to me, she murmured against his lips, as I have surrendered to you. Their bodies came together with the familiarity of practiced lovers, but the intensity of a new discovery. She marveled at how her violet skin contrasted with his warm amber tones, how their anatomical differences had become perfect complements rather than obstacles. Where once she had seen weakness in his gentle nature, she now found bottomless strength. Where he had once feared her warrior's intensity, he now matched her passion with his own. Their joining transcended the physical. It was the final dissolution of the barriers between them, the ultimate proof that love could bridge even the vast gulfs between stars. Later, as Elias slept beside her, Cora watched the twin moons of Nexus 9 through their window. The crystal heartstone, now permanently bonded to both of them, pulsed softly between them where their hands remained intertwined. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The Vexian warriors would need to decide their own paths. The Dominion would eventually send reinforcements. The human colony would have to determine how to incorporate their former enemies. But tonight, in the quiet of their shared breath, Cora knew one unassailable truth. In surrendering to love, she had not been diminished, she had been completed. And in this completion was a power greater than any conquest her people had ever achieved. She turned to press her lips to Elia's shoulder and whispered in the ancient Vexian tongue words that translated roughly to, "In surrendering my heart, I have won the universe."